Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Batrider. Batrider is an interesting hero because he's played mid and off lane and he's been relevant for almost the entirety of Dota 2. Now, there's been small lulls here and there where right after he's nerfed, he just kind of disappears for a bit, but any time that he gets buffed, he comes right back into relevancy, he surges back into the pro scene, and that's because there's things about this hero that can just never be counted out. So you can think about this hero in two main ways. First, he is a lane-dominating magic damage hero. So early in the lane, basically you use Sticky Napalm and Firefly to just destroy the lane. You either harass people out of lane, you make them, back away from the creep wave so they can't get last hits or any experience, or if they don't do that, then you might just straight up kill them. And so unless you have a hero like Slark, Jug, Lifestealer, something that can purge these sticky napalm stacks, then it's going to be very, very hard to lane against this hero. And that is one of the big reasons that this hero is overpowered, because it can just dominate lanes. It will just destroy you in lane. Now, over time, that ability to kind of cheese the laning stage has been nerfed, so it's not as good, but it's still very, very relevant. And then the second thing about this hero that is probably the main thing that makes this hero OP and always relevant is the ultimate. And this ultimate is Flaming Lasso. Now, Flaming Lasso is one of these abilities, like kind of Enigma's black hole, that can never be counted out. It's never going to be irrelevant. It's always going to be something that's good just by the nature of the ability. So what you do with this ability is you just basically choose an enemy hero and you say, you're going to die. I'm going to grab you, put you out of position, pull you out of position, stun you for a long time, through BKB even, and my entire team and me, we're going to kill you in that duration, and now it's a 4v5. And that's just something that can never be counted out. It can never be underestimated. So whenever this hero is good in other ways, it's always going to be good when Flaming Lasso is relevant, and it almost always is, even into the late game. So this hero doesn't scale with right clicks or, traditional carry damage. It's more of a magic damage hero, but it does scale because his ultimate is just so good. So, how do we think about this hero in general? Well, it's a mid or off lane, like I said, and it either dominates the lane, like I talked about, or farms pretty quickly because of the nature of his abilities. You can farm stacks, you can farm the jungle pretty quickly, and then you basically run around the map with Firefly and Lasso off cooldown. Whenever they're off cooldown, you run around, you kill people. You gank side lanes if you're from mid, you get your blink dagger quick and you kill the enemy hero that you're laning against, or you go mid and you kill mid if you're from off lane. Those kinds of things. You just run around the map, you become a nuisance, you become very annoying, and you pick off people. And that's the main way to think about Batrider. Now, it just depends on the patch, whether or not, you rush Blink, or you go Boots of Travel, or you do something else like that. So obviously, follow the guide, follow the patch, but the idea of the hero is still very similar. Lane, dominate the lane if you can, farm, get your items, maybe one or two items, whatever they are, and then run around killing people. And that's the main way to think about Batrider. So that's Batrider. Now, let's jump into the abilities and see how he's able to do all that like I described. Now that we understand Batrider in general, we can take a look at his abilities and see how he's able to dominate lanes, farm pretty quickly, and scale into the late game like I talked about. So first, we're going to take a look at Sticky Napalm, and this is the ability that allows him to dominate lanes. It's the ability that you have to have someone that purges this ability in order to lane against them, or you just have to walk away from the creep wave and not lane against Bat for a long period of time, or just lane against him intermittently so that you can survive. And so what this does is you click it and you see an AoE appears, and then you click it wherever you want it to go, and then a bunch of sticky napalm basically comes out and covers the hero. They get a little bit black and they have a debuff 1 over them. Now, if you don't cast this again, that 1 will disappear and then they'll go back to normal. But the thing about this is it has a low cooldown and low mana cost, and you can keep stacking it onto them, so the number over their head just increases as you apply more sticky napalm. And what this does, as you see Axe is kind of slowed here, is that it basically slows their movement speed and their turn rate and these kinds of things, and they take more damage. So not only is it hard for them to get away from you, but let's look at this right click here. This is doing a good bit of damage to Axe, and look at how little damage it does when the sticky napalm expires. Because basically, this hero has a very, very low attack damage statistic. It's pretty much one of the lowest in the game, if not the lowest. I don't know all of them by heart, but yeah, it's one of the worst. And so it's amped up by this, and if you're sitting in the lane trying to CS and he just keeps casting this on you, then you can just start right-clicking you for like triple the damage that you actually, would right-click him for. It's just crazy. It's impossible to lane against with this ability. Now, I will say the last thing about this is that the enemy will buy stick, because every time you cast this, it gives them a stick charge. So just keep that in mind. But if you get like 6, 7 stacks, whatever it is, if you get a ton of stacks on them, it's just that stick isn't going to save them with your right click and and when you combo it with Firefly. So just keep that in mind. But they will have that, so expect to always, even when you're diving them or trying to kill them, they will regen a little bit when you keep casting Sticky Napalm. But the other thing is, it's not just a lane dominating thing. It's also something that you can cast on creeps, creep camps, creep waves, those kinds of things, just to do more damage, just to clear them quicker and that kind of stuff. So he can farm a lot of stacks in the jungle as well. So that's why this hero can also farm really quickly and get a lot of items. So that's Sticky Napalm. That is his like main ability for the lane and all those kinds of things. It's what kind of makes this hero good early on in the game before his ultimate. Then next, I'm actually going to look at Firefly, because this is the ability that you combo with Sticky Napalm in the lane to kill people. So let's just put on free spells here. Let's just say I get someone up to like 5 stacks. Well, they're going to have a hard time running away from me, and then I can just run over top of them, and look at the amount of damage that this axe is taking because of that. And then look at how much damage he takes when I don't have those stacks up. So it's not nearly as much. And so that's how you combo these two abilities together in the laning stage. Basically, you use your Sticky Napalm, you get their stacks up to, 5, whatever it is, you get a lot, and then you basically Firefly over top of them, you run them down, and then you keep Sticky Napalming them so that they take a ton of damage, and eventually you'll just kill them. You'll snowball the game, and hopefully the lane, and they either won't be able to come back in the lane, or they just have to make sure they never get these stacks up on them. So that's pretty much how to use Firefly. That's what Firefly does. It just does a ton of damage over, basically whenever you run over heroes. It also gives you a little bit of movement speed. It does some vision things as well, and you can go across cliffs, so just keep that in mind. So that's Firefly, and then the next one is Flame Break, the one in the middle. This is kind of his worst spell, I guess you could say. It's still relevant, it still does stuff, but it's just not the best spell that he has. It's not one of his key spells. So this is a pretty simple spell. You just throw out like a Molotov cocktail, and wherever you put it in the AoE, any enemy in that AoE gets bounced in a direction. So let's say I put the middle here, the axe will bounce to the left. Let's say I put it over here, the axe will bounce to the right. And then obviously the same thing, if I put it ahead of him, he'll bounce back. And so how you want to use this is, you want to use this where they're like running away, they're running away from your Firefly or something like that. You shoot it ahead of them and then they bounce back. But keep in mind, it has a travel time. So because of that travel time, you're going to want to like preemptively shoot it, or shoot it way ahead of them, so that when it finally lands, they actually are pushed back and not forward. Because, if you, let's say the axe is running away and you shoot it like right at him, well, you're actually going to push him away, because by the time it gets there, he's going to be on the other side of that flame break. So just keep that in mind when you're using this ability. The other thing it does is it also does damage, so it cancels blinks and things like that. And then when you have your Sticky Napalm stacks up, it does more damage, and it can do a decent amount of damage, just like Firefly, so keep that in mind. Just briefly, this did used to cancel TPs. It doesn't anymore, but it did in the past, and that was one of the reasons that this hero was so OP. It was insane. You could cast this from so far away, like look at that range, and it would cancel TPs and give like a brief stun. So that is one of the things that was OP about it, but it doesn't cancel TPs. It's just kind of a movement or a positioning ability. So those are all of his main abilities. And then the last one, the really, really good ultimate, Flaming Lasso. So it's pretty simple. You walk up, you press it on somebody, and then you lasso them, and then you can basically drag them to wherever you want. So let's say you have Firefly on, I click it on the axe, I can just drag him over this cliff, wherever I want. The other thing is, if I buy Force Staff, I can come over here and click it and Force Staff away, and it'll drag him away. So obviously, you'll probably buy Blink on this hero. You go in, you blink in, you do this, you Force Staff away, those kinds of things. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. It pierces BKB, all that stuff. It's one of the best ultimates in the game. So you obviously want to combo this hero in the way that I showed before, using your Sticky Napalm. Then you use your Firefly, you keep Sticky Napalming them. And then eventually, you know, you don't, in the early game especially, when people don't have a lot of escapes or a lot of things to purge, you honestly don't even need to use your lasso until, like, maybe, you know, at the very end, or you need to secure a kill or whatever it is. You can honestly just chase people down. But then if you need to, if you're blinking in or something, you want to catch someone out of position, then obviously you blink, lasso, and then just run away. But yeah, and then let's say someone is running away from you, then you can use this to bounce them back, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple with the combos. Just you have to get used to using this. You have to make sure you're constantly, you know, getting your sticky napalm stacks up, and you're not letting them, you know, decrease or go away unless they run away from you or get, like, really far away from the creep wave, all of that kind of stuff. And then one thing to keep in mind too is that Flaming Lasso has a very, very low range, so you really do have to blink, like, right next to the hero in order to grab them, so just keep that in mind. And then lastly, the last thing I'll say about Flaming Lasso is you cannot attack during the lasso, so you are relying on your magic damage, you are relying on the enemy to attack for you and to kill the enemy while you're putting them out of position. But you can probably see why this ability is so good, because it pierces BKB, and you can basically just pick an enemy hero and say, you're going to die, you're coming to my team now, we're going to kill you. So that is Batrider. Those are his abilities. Now let's jump into a game and see how he's actually played. Now we're jumping into 9, playing Batrider mid, and you can kind of pick this hero mid or offlane. It's just that mid has been more popular more recently. So basically, just to start off, you just spam your sticky napalm. It's really just that simple, and you do this on the creep wave and on the enemy as much as possible, so that 1, you can secure last hits, but then 2, whenever you do get the opportunity to right click the enemy, you're doing way more damage. Because if you look at the Batrider's damage down here, 45 damage, very, very bad, like, not good damage. But obviously you're amping it up with that sticky napalm, so you can do a ton of harass. And as you see, the Void Spirit is getting a lot of stacks on him. So he does have a stick. If we click on the Void Spirit, he does have a stick with a good amount of stick charges, but still, he knows that he doesn't want to keep these stacks on him, so he backs off from the creep wave. He runs away just to make sure that he can get those stacks to go away. And that's kind of one of the things. Even if you can't kill people, you're making them leave the lane if they can't purge your stacks. So that's the main thing to think about with this hero. First of all, especially level 1 with that sticky napalm. But now we see it's level 2. He has Firefly, and this is the time where you can look to get aggressive even at level 2, now that you just have 2 spells, because if the enemy lets you get a bunch of stacks on them, you can kill them with Firefly. And we'll see how 9 does this here in this lane against the Void Spirit. And keep in mind, Void Spirit has a positioning ability that he can usually dodge with and those kinds of things, and we'll see that being used here. But Batrider, basically, he sees 7 stacks, 6 stacks. He goes in, he predicts incorrectly which way the Void Spirit's going to go, and then he still is able to recover, go back to the Void, do a ton of damage, and get the kill and not die under the enemy tier 1 tower before 2 minutes with level 2. That is the insanity of this hero. That's how good this hero can be. And think about it. In your games, you are not going to be playing against a high-ranked mid like this. You're going to be playing against other people that will just underestimate the damage that Batrider does. So that's the quintessential, the perfect Batrider laning stage. It's something you can do in your games. The thing is, you just have to learn, you know, learn your limits, learn to not aggro the tower, those kinds of things, so you don't take extra damage, all of that. And, you know, you may feed, you may die a couple times, but if you get good with the hero, if you practice the hero, you'll be able to dominate lanes just like this with this hero, because it just does so much damage. And now the lane is basically over. He's pretty much won the lane because of that amazing early game that he just had, and the amazing kill that he got, even on a hero that you think would be able to dodge, like a Void Spirit, and the Void Spirit started out with stick. So just keep all of that in mind. But that's the perfect representation of how to play the laning stage with Batrider. Now, we jumped ahead a little bit here, and I'm putting it at 2 times speed because I want to show you this entire sequence. So he gets 6 before the Void because he had such a good laning stage, and he sees the Void come back to lane, and the Void is level 5, and he says, you know what? Time to dive. Time to kill the Void again. So he fortifies his creeps so that they tank the tower for him, and he doesn't let the Void get 6, and then he dives the Void. And this is the perfect way to play Bat. He's pushing Bat to the limit, really, here. And so he just, honestly, he's level 7 while the Void is level 5. He's crushing the lane right now. And now you see he's kind of low resources, so he basically uses some sticky napalms to drag this creep wave away from the tower, so he's getting free pressure and damage on the tower, and then he uses his Firefly there to farm the big camp and the creep wave at the same time. And now this is the perfect way, the perfect sequence for Batrider, and he's doing it as he's going back to base, so he's close to base. So this is just so perfect. If you want to learn how to play Batrider, just watch this sequence, because it's just the quintessential Batrider play right here. You know, you being aggressive at level 6 when you know you have an advantage on the enemy, farming efficiently, getting that free damage on the tower. Then he goes back to mid. You know, he's just farming up again, and we'll see again he does the same exact thing, using his Firefly to get the most farm as possible, because he goes to the small camp, stacks it at the minute mark, then again drags the creep wave into the small camp. It basically farms 2 small camps and a creep wave at the same time with his Firefly. So that's just so perfect. That is the perfect sequence right here. As I'm talking, you'll probably even see him barely live to a gank. But yeah, that's just the perfect sequence of exactly how you want to play Batrider, you know, early game, right after the laning stage, once you're getting, you know, your few levels up, farming and picking off people with Flaming Lasso. And you see, even here, he's going to go back to base, but he says, you know what, I'm just going to use this Firefly one last time to get more farm. So that's the perfect Batrider play early game once you hit 6, right after the laning stage. We skipped ahead a little bit here, and we see he has his Boots of Travel, and, you know, for this patch, you're going to rush Boots of Travel, but in a lot of patches, you might go Blink or something else like that, so just obviously follow the guide, follow the build at the time. But once you get those items, once you get your first item timings, and you're pretty strong in the game, we see how aggressive he's being. We even see that the enemy goes on him to try to kill him, and yet, because of his extreme early game, his great start, and his farm, the amount of damage he can dish out, he gets a double kill by himself on the 2 heroes that tried to kill him and initiate on him. And then he obviously cleans up the fight with 2 more kills there, or at least 1 kill and then another kill at the end here on the Hoodwink. And so they almost get a full team wipe there, basically because Bat is just so strong. So he doesn't even initiate there. He doesn't even use his blink to get the kill. He actually gets initiated on himself. The enemy team tries to kill him, and he still turns it on both of them. And that's just a great example of how powerful Batrider is in the early game, and kind of how you want to be using this hero once you get your blink or your Boots of Travel, whatever it is that you're going to be rushing. Usually it's Boots of Travel these days, but still, you just want to be super aggressive, using your Flaming Lasso and your Firefly off cooldown to get insane kills, because you do crazy damage, and you're really tanky as well. You see, he's level 13, and he has 17, almost 1800 HP. Yes, he has an Ogre Axe, but that's basically it. He just has a Wand Ogre Axe, and he almost has 2k HP. It's kind of insane. So that's Batrider early game into the mid game, and once you get a couple items, you know, 1 or 2 items, that's how you want to play. Super aggressive. When Lasso is off cooldown, look to kill people, and then farm the rest of the time. So that's Batrider kind of mid-game, and now I'll go and show you maybe a late-game Batrider scenario where he picks people off. Now I jumped ahead here, and this is basically the game-winning fight. They've obviously been snowballing the game. They're pretty far ahead, mainly because of his play on Batrider, but now Luna has Aegis, and I just want to show you how he plays this fight. He doesn't even have Blink, but he basically uses his Firefly and just goes on the most important targets. We see the carry here, the Clinks, is going to be the one that does all the damage in the fight, basically, where the other heroes do some damage but a lot of control. And he says, okay, I'm picking out the Clinks and I'm saying, you're not doing damage, you're going to have to either run away from me or just die to my Firefly and Lasso. And that's basically what happens. And you see, that's the difference, is he's able to single-handedly pick off the enemy carry and say, you are going to die. I'm going to focus you with my Lasso, my BKB, my Firefly, all of that kind of stuff. And then the game is just over, because the enemy has no one to do damage. They're on a 4v5. They have Aegis, obviously, but they didn't even need to use the Aegis. But this is just the power of Batrider. You see how easy that fight was. Obviously, they're leading. They're way ahead. But that's what Bat does. He basically says, okay, your carry or whoever is the most important hero on your team, I'm going to focus them. I'm going to run at them. I'm going to either blink at them or Firefly at them, BKB at them, whatever, lasso them, and they are going to die. And that's pretty much just how you win the game with Batrider. That's basically the game-winning fight. At this point, I think they take another few fights and they get some pickoffs and they win. But you see, they took their first racks. This is basically the game. This Batrider is insanely farmed, super fat, super just insanely scary. They just have to run away from him, and he can basically solo kill the Clinks, and you see the Clinks saying GGN there. But yeah, that's the perfect Batrider game. I think, you know, taking a game like this, finding a game where a Batrider stomps like this is the perfect way to learn how to play Batrider. So that's my Batrider guide. I hope it helps everybody out. If you like the video, obviously, like, comment, subscribe, all of those kinds of things. If you want me to take a look at one of your replays, just let me know in the comments, or go to the Discord, ask there. Join the Discord if you haven't already. We have a community building, which is really, really awesome. I'm going to be doing replay reviews every Friday now on my stream, so check that out. The VODs will be up if you miss it. Don't worry about that. And then, obviously, I have coaching, so the Patreon link is below, so if you want coaching, go there. I'm excited to be coaching people. I've already had a few people that I've coached, and it went really, really well. They've already been gaining some MMR, which is awesome. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.